Have you ever wondered why Jesus spent 40 days in the desert before beginning his ministry? Or why great Christian mystics, from St. John of the Cross to St. Teresa of Avila, described brain transformations that modern neuroscience can now measure with incredible precision? Stay with me until the end of this video, because what I'm about to reveal will not only change your understanding of faith, but also show scientifically how God designed your brain to overcome adversity, heal wounds, and fulfill a purpose beyond your imagination. 3 years ago, I met Roberto, a 47-year-old businessman who had lost everything. His company had gone bankrupt. His wife left him taking their children, and doctors diagnosed him with severe depression that would supposedly require medication for life. He confided in me, saying, "Doctor, I've lost faith in everything, even in God. My brain is broken, my life is destroyed, and I see no way out." What happened next not only defied medical expectations, but also demonstrated something extraordinary. There is a divine code literally embedded in the neural networks of your brain, a design so perfect that, when activated correctly, it can regenerate, restore, and transform every aspect of your life. Neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Newberg discovered that during deep prayer, the superior parietal lobule, which defines the boundaries between the self and the universe, decreases its activity, dissolving the ego, while the frontal lobe, the center of attention, willpower, and purpose, lights up with intensity never seen in other human activities. This means that connecting genuinely with the divine literally rewires your brain, dissolving barriers while enhancing focus, decision-making, and transformation. But this is just the beginning. Dr. Mario Beauregard studied people who had profound mystical experiences, similar to the third heaven experiences described by St. Paul, and found that more than 12 brain regions activate simultaneously, creating a neural symphony that no secular meditation, drug, or therapy can reproduce. It is as if God left his signature in our neurobiology, a latent capacity for transcendence waiting to be awakened. Your brain is not a fixed machine or pre-programmed computer destined to repeat the same patterns. Neuroplasticity, a divine gift that science is only beginning to understand, means that every thought, prayer, and act of faith literally rewires your brain. Dr. Jeffrey Schwartz demonstrated this by teaching patients with obsessive-compulsive disorder to use focused attention guided by spiritual values. 80% of his patients showed measurable physical changes in the basal ganglia, the same region targeted by medication, but achieved naturally through mind and spirit. Faith is not merely a psychological comfort. Studies show that individuals with active, deep faith have a 29% lower risk of depression, a 25% lower risk of heart disease, and even longer telomeres, the protective caps on our chromosomes that determine cellular aging. The biological effect of faith is measurable at the molecular level. Maria, a 52-year-old woman with fibromyalgia, had tried everything for 8 years without relief. By combining contemplative prayer with deep diaphragmatic breathing, her brain released oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine, and endorphins, the body's natural healing cocktail. After 40 days, her pain decreased by 70%, and she discovered a purpose in her suffering, going on to help others. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, showed that finding meaning in suffering activates different brain regions than suffering without purpose. Meaningful suffering engages the medial prefrontal cortex, associated with transcendence and purpose, while purposeless suffering activates the amygdala, trapping you in fear and despair. Maintaining a coherent internal narrative, like Job did despite losing everything, strengthens the hippocampus and keeps the prefrontal cortex in control, literally making the brain more resilient. Different types of prayer affect the brain in distinct ways. Petitionary prayer activates reward-seeking regions. Gratitude prayer regulates hormones and immunity. But contemplative prayer, the silent communion with God practiced by Christian mystics, produces the deepest, most lasting neural transformation. Neuroscience confirms what mystics described centuries ago. Progressive activation of 7 major neural networks mirrors Saint Teresa of Avila's 7 mansions of the soul. Fasting also transforms the brain. During spiritual fasting, your brain enters ketosis and activates neuronal autophagy, eliminating damaged proteins, creating new neurons, and strengthening synapses. Monks who practice regular fasting have brains biologically decades younger than their chronological age. When combined with prayer and meditation, fasting produces a divine neurochemical reset. Music and communal worship synchronize multiple brain networks, creating what scientists call neural entrainment, a collective superbrain that fosters resilience and hope. Singing in community aligns the default mode network, executive attention network, and salience network, producing profound emotional and spiritual benefits. Even sleep and dreams are designed for divine connection. During REM sleep, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex relaxes while the medial prefrontal cortex and temporal parietal junction activate, making the brain more receptive to spiritual insights. Sacred sleep practices, including prayer, gratitude, and intention, enhance these neural patterns, facilitating spiritual revelation. Our modern world overstimulates dopamine pathways with social media, entertainment, and endless distractions, leading to anhedonia, the inability to feel joy in simple, sacred experiences. Jesus understood this deeply, withdrawing to deserts and mountains to reset his reward circuits and remain sensitive to the subtle, sacred voice of God. Digital detox, contemplative prayer, and mindful service restore natural dopamine balance and reconnect us with purpose. Even forgiveness is a neurological process. Holding resentment keeps the amygdala hyperactive and weakens prefrontal control. Genuine forgiveness activates the anterior cingulate and mirror neurons, restoring emotional balance and compassion. Acts of service, contemplative prayer, and gratitude further strengthen neural pathways, rewiring the brain for joy, resilience, and divine connection. Words themselves shape our neurochemistry. Positive, spiritually meaningful words activate the frontal lobe and promote dopamine production, while negative words trigger the amygdala and cortisol release. The Bible says, life and death are in the power of the tongue, and neuroscience confirms it. Each word you speak or think literally reshapes the structure and chemistry of your brain. Your brain contains a network dedicated to the sacred, integrating memory, emotion, intuition, and logic to create a sense of divine purpose. When this network is active, you experience existential coherence. When dormant, you feel emptiness despite material success, like King Solomon lamented in Ecclesiastes. Practices such as contemplative prayer, sacred preparation before work, intentional rest, and conscious gratitude reconnect the brain to divine purpose, turning ordinary actions into acts of spiritual transformation. In short, God designed your brain to heal, to forgive, to serve, to love, and to find meaning. Spiritual practices, prayer, fasting, forgiveness, music, service, gratitude, and intentional rest activate this divine neural architecture. By following these practices consistently, your brain literally rewires itself, allowing you to live a life of resilience, joy, and transcendence. If this message resonates with you, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell, because every week we share insights that can transform your mind, your health, and your life. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it today and begin your journey to unlock the divine code in your brain.